It's rarer to get a hell no, actually. Yeah. So, yeah, that's my answer.
And then, thank you for that. What you said was so poignant, and it's like a through line that I'm glad. It's a thread that I'm glad I've been able to tug through the last four or five conversations I've had, which is how important it is to know your instrument.
Mm.
Because when you get into those situations where you may get a script and it's not a hell yes, and it's like you know, there is oftentimes, and I spoke about this yesterday. There's oftentimes a difficult time discerning whether we're feeling that uncertainty or maybe a little like fear in our stomach because this project is going to help us grow and take us someplace we've never been before, or we
Mm.
may just know this is not for us. Even if the character feels right, the situation at an intuitive level feels wrong, and I need to
Mm.
listen to that. But the key in both of those situations is, like you said, having the tools and having the ability to understand what one needs to connect to that instrument, whether it's
Mm.
meditating, listening to music, going into nature. For me, a big part of it has been breath work.
Mm. Right.
Because that was the other thing, and I'm glad you actually brought up the epigenetics piece, is
Yeah.
breath work and actually plant medicine. So I mean, thing from ayahuasca, peyote, San Pedro, psilocybin, all of it. I've experienced and experimented with, and the common denominator between the plant medicine experiences, the breathwork experiences, and deep meditative experiences is that I have a lot more inherently in my cells and in my body that I'm consciously aware of.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, this was actually something that our teacher in LA used to say, Michelle, it really is maybe just a matter of getting tired enough to trust what the body already knows to be true.
Yeah.
But that's where the work comes in, and that's
Yeah.
why I was saying earlier, it's like all the stuff that I've been doing, like the stuff that we're going to even do with the of all these tools and techniques and elements that really kind of help liberate the storyteller to
Yeah.
know at that deep level, is this a story that I want to tell? Does it
Mm.
have meaning for me? And is it going to be a good, true, and beautiful experience, regardless of how it
Yeah.
unfolds? You know,
Yeah. That's right. It's
getting
like a
getting
lot
to
of, it's just a lot of hard work to be easy to ourselves, you know?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to reflect that back to you. I didn't want to cut you off.
No, I that's a great way to sum up what I said in one sentence. It's a lot of hard work to be easy to ourselves, and I think
Yeah.
that's because like one of the things that I think is so essential to anything in life. We're talking about stories being this technology that we use, but it's like relationships, in my opinion, are the kind of the classroom or the container in which we use that technology.
For real.
Because we can do a lot on our own, but we can do a lot more when we're in relationship or in community. And
Yeah.
how having done that hard work, which I guess that's why I want to bring it up, is because like as an actor, as an entertainer, as someone who is a public figure, there's a lot of temptation sometimes to not do that hard work,
Sure.
um, because the other stuff is either more fun. It may be fleeting, but it may give us that dopamine boost that we're looking for when
Yeah.
we're in the trenches. And I guess my final question is just like, how have you maintained that relationship to yourself to really stay true during these times of uncertainty and real like chaos?
Wow. I mean, some days better than others. That's for sure. And there are challenging times for any type of human being doing anything, but especially for freelance artists like actors, the relationship to instability has really kind of come to a head during the pandemic, and but it has always sort of been that. It's always been a dance with not knowing what the future holds, and I think I think what's important to me is if I feel like I am in right relationship with myself, if I feel like I am in integrity as far as if I've done the investigative work to 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 excavate my why, really at the bottom, why am I doing any of this? Then the second step of that is, okay, so am I stepping from my why? Am I stepping off of my why in order to do whatever, or because I'm afraid or whatever, or am I stepping from my why, which means that my next step, I'm landing in the next phase of why. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a certain, I mean, we've heard it said from so many wise creative teachers that our greatest work is done on our growth edge, and that part of the growth edge is that it kind of necessarily involves some sort of discomfort. And that's not to say that we need to suffer as an artist, and that's not to say that we need to hurt ourselves. It's kind of the opposite. Like we need to love ourselves
Mm-hmm.
enough to swing out, and we are able to swing out when we know that our base, which is the why, is solid. So for me, like the way to get through the uncertainty is to cultivate my perspective like a garden. And I know I've mentioned this idea to you before, but that we are both the gardener and the flower. And
Mm-hmm.
if we lean too heavily on one side, like we're just the flower, like I'm just here to grow and be pretty, then we don't know anything about the soil. We don't know where we're being grown and why. And if we're just the gardener, then it becomes very technical, and it's all about like, well, what's the pH, and how's it going to go, and what if this, like, what if I get pests, and da, 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 da. We need the balance between being the gardener and the flower to know that we are the technical aspect of what we're doing is only existing as like a loving support system for the generative nature of the flower, which has as part of it an unknowability. Like there's the beautiful thing about creativity is that all of a sudden, you water it, you show up, you do the work, that flower is going to grow into something that you couldn't even imagine. And in the same way that you couldn't imagine it, when other people perceive it, they're like, where did that come from? Like, how many times have all of you seen an art piece of art where you're like, holy smokes, where did that even come from? Guaranteed the artist didn't know either. Like there's a certain amount of, like, when you're at your growth edge, there's a certain amount
Mm-hmm.
of free fall that is required. And I think that there's like, in kind of a meta way, this is true of all human beings, that like when we get to the edge of the known, what will keep us together as we step into the unknown is a trust in this relationship between the gardener and the flower, a trust that there is a through line to everything, that when we as like little ant human beings, when we step into the unknown with the fortitude of knowing why we're doing it, we step into the ranks of something that is so much greater and so much more powerful and beautiful and full of potential. That is like, I think that is that moment there at the tip of the wave. That is what all the artists have been describing. That's what all the theologists have been describing. That's what all of the lovers have been describing. It's all the same thing. And it's like a particular backwards equation where when we surrender our power in order to become part of something more powerful, we are then part of that more powerful thing in which anything is possible.
Hey man, I am full. I'm certainly complete. I could obviously continue this conversation for, you know, for much longer, but I want to be respectful of your time, and just say thank you for giving kind of what you just, that offering you just shared with us was it was funny because it was like an in the moment illustrate. Yeah, Evan does stand flow. It was an in the moment illustration of what you were talking about. You know, I feel like we reached the growth edge in a relatively short amount of time. I mean, which we do when we speak, but I just think, you know, this is a beautiful example of, for anyone that's been here from the beginning, you know, we started at this level. This is where we came in on. And if there's any way that I can summarize it, I guess it's like, you know, really taking the time, giving yourself the time to understand that your why is rooted in compassion for yourself, empathy for yourself. Or stepping off the ledge, stepping into the unknown, into the darkness, requires us to have that balance, because sometimes you step out there, it's a hard journey back. And if
Mm,
we're clear on our why, it may not
mm,
be easier, but we'll have a through line that can get us back so that we can then share whatever it is that we went and learned and experienced over there.
totally.
Um,
And the last thing I'd love to say about that is, if it's okay, is
yeah, yeah.
the I just made me think of the why. You're talking about trying to figure out the clarity of the why, like discernment, right? And it's important for any artist. But I the last thing I want to say is that the why, the movement towards the why, is the why. Surrendered, and we have to forgive ourselves of that thinking, and recognize that as long as we are part of the why, is recognizing that we will never truly reach the center of the why. Like maybe when we die, we'll reach the center of the why, but we are moving towards. And as long as our intention and in our integrity, we know, like I have a mentor who says as a mantra, what is the next honest thing? And we
Mm,
only know the honest thing when we know ourselves. And we only know ourselves when we actually do the work to take a look. But when we take a look, there is always going to be a certain amount of unknowability. And so that is inherent in the stepping into the unknown. And so I just want to just be clear that like the why happens, the movement towards the why happens in the present. And that the idea is about like, well, what if I make a wrong mistake is already in the future. And
mm-hmm.
the, well, like, well, I didn't make the right why in the before is already in the past. And so if we can let those things fall away, it becomes a much more simple equation of what is the next honest thing. And we can just do the work of moving towards that.
That's beautiful, man. Man, God, I just want to add one more thing, because that was
Please.
like, we're in flow, we've been in flow. And I just want to tie it back to acting, about how, you know, sometimes it's very easy to get caught up in the end, the destination of the why, or enlightenment,
Mm, mm,
achievement, whatever that may be. And how you were saying, you know, like, no, just because you're investigating the why, that's the why, you know, just toward, as a simple, you know, example of choosing to move towards the why, that's the why. And I think it's a really good note for anyone out there that's an actor, or who is just getting into acting or is interested in it, understanding that what brings that character to life, whether it's in a book, on the screen, or on the stage, is that process. Did I get cut off?
yeah, is the process.
Is the process. It is the unfolding of that individual's longing to get to their why. So understanding it's not about getting the why. The whole human thing, which we get to showcase as actors, is that longing that comes with the process of being in search of the why. That's the juice. That's the ticket. That's the process. And allowing ourselves to be okay with that longing. Maybe that thirst is never quenched. Well, maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the point.
That's what resonates. That's what resonates. Like that's the resonant thing is the seeking. That's what makes other human beings be like, oh, me too. Like, oh, that's art, baby.
That's art. Yeah. That is art. We just made some art, man. So I just want to close on that, you know. Thank you so much, brother. I love you.
My pleasure, man. I love you.
As always, this has been such a joy. I always grow so much with you. I feel like every time we have a conversation, I die. You know, I don't survive a conversation. Well, I mean it in a good way. It's like it's a rebirth, maybe I should say. I don't survive a conversation with you because who I was before this conversation, I'm consciously aware of how much different I am now.
Wow. That's insane. I love that thought. I love that. And me too. Me too. We're just leveling each other up. Everybody in the audience here has been leveled up. We're just leveling up. Well, everybody take Tom's acting class. Like if you feel a nudge, go and encounter the unknown and go investigate your why.
Beautiful. Brother, I love you. Take care. Everyone on here, so grateful for your presence. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a great rest of your Saturday. If you're interested in learning more about the workshop, the link is pinned right there, so check it out. And yeah, man, just keep leveling up.
Keep leveling up. Bye, everybody.
Love you, man. Peace.
Love you.